Ladies and gentlemen, our first invited speaker is Jacqueline Costello. Lieutenant Colonel Costello was commissioned into the Australian Army in 2002 and has undertaken a diverse range of clinical, organisational, operational, command and staff appointments during her service. Lieutenant Colonel Costello holds a master's degree in organisational psychology and currently leads the Human Performance Optimisation team at Headquarters Forces Command. She has served as the officer in charge of the ADF Centre for Mental Health, as the senior psychologist in the Commander's Advisory Group at Forces Command, and prior to her current appointment as the commanding officer of the 1st Psychology Unit. Today, Lieutenant Colonel Costello will present Body, Mind, Team Tools, Human Performance and Optimisation in Forces Command. Lieutenant Colonel Costello, please welcome her.
Morning, team. Absolute privilege to be here. Thank you, Curtis. I'm always energised by hearing your story. It really brings into perspective the idea that what we do in Army is about supporting the team. And at Headquarters Forces Command in the HP space, we are that background team. So Curtis put up there were 10 different disciplines, all the background support. What we're trying to build in Forces Command is those background supports for you guys to get out there in your teams and be the best you possibly can. You've probably worked out that human performance on its own is not a thing. You can't go out and buy it off the shelf. You can't go and study it indiscriminately. It is a combination, one big synchronisation task is human performance. It's that bringing together of a whole lot of different disciplines and focusing on optimising our performance. And in Forces Command, the focus there is our warfighting capability in teams. So we bring together all sorts of different people, and we, have been on a bit of a journey. So Army has been doing human performance for about 6 or 7 years now as a designated thing. There's been a whole evolution of documents and directives and supporting lots and lots of tactical level intervention, a really strong desire out in the brigades to just get after it. There's been a few guardrails along the way. We've had some Chief of Army direction, we've had some directives from Forces Command, but at the current state, we've got this really broad range of activities that kind of sit in 3 or 4 domains. There's lots of use of external providers. We've got some aggregation across the soldier recovery centres. We've got some lived experience and current and veteran members coming back into our systems and supporting our soldiers with education and programs. There's a real blending, if you like, between resilience and character development and high skill training stuff. It's a really rich, varied, diverse landscape, but I'm here to say it's not a lot of measures of effectiveness. We really don't understand at this point what we're doing well and therefore how we might scale that and leverage off the success of the things that are working across our brigades. It leads me to what is our current problem statement, which is we have got a largely experimental, for want of a better word, transactional approach to human performance outcomes in Forces Command at the moment. We've got programs that are a bit of a mix of strength and conditioning, cognitive, social, ethics, values, leadership stuff, all swimming around together. What we're trying to do is bring a consolidated and coordinated approach to HP so that we can provide a measurable benefit to the entire force. You're all serving in Forces Command. You understand it is the United Nations of soldiers, all shapes and sizes, all backgrounds, all doing different things and coming together as teams. What we're trying to get to is the HPO-enabled soldier. So the HPO-enabled soldier is robust, resilient, strong and capable, self-aware, mentally agile, decisive, ethically and morally aware, proud and willing, clear and persuasive communicator, culturally sensitive, trusted team member, and socially integrated. And if you've got any other ideas, please put them in the chat, send them in on a question. If you think we've missed any of what the characteristics that might define a HPO-enabled soldier, then please let us know. How do we get there? It wouldn't be Headquarters Forces Command without a campaign plan and without some idea of how we're going to map our way into the future. The foundation really is to good training is good health. So a soldier's ability to train is optimised when they have the tools and the resources to recognise and manage their own health in their body, in their mind, and within their teams. So what we're trying to build through this diagram is 4 domains: body, mind, teams, and tools, and I'll unpack them a little bit as we go along. 2 lines of effort: what we do individually and where we measure ourselves in terms of our availability, our health, our well-being, and how we optimise ourselves in teams across those domains and how we measure that in terms of our readiness. The effects that we're looking for, that HPO-enabled soldier, sits at the right of the diagram, and we take a journey through bringing together the domains, bringing together what we do individually in teams to get us to that HPO-enabled soldier. Where the focus is at the moment is at the team stuff. If I look out in one brigade, I see a lot of activity around giving our teams opportunities to develop skills, to get education, to participate in things that will enable them from a human performance perspective. What is missing is on us in Forces Command to provide that foundation level practices, principles, programs in a standardised way with parity of access across the command, so that when you come together in teams, we know that you're using the right ingredients. Our capability statement comes out of the journey of all of those bits coming together. Human performance defines, enables and optimises the physical, cognitive and socio-cultural adaptation of the soldier to build teams and strengthen our warfighting capability. So we understand really well the physical adaptation cycle of the soldier off the street and out through Private P to the brigades. We understand what it takes to build that combat physical conditioning cycle, and we understand what are the strains on that cycle as that soldier adapts to military service. Where we don't have the maturity and the understanding is in the mindset, in the cognitive piece, and very much in the team space, in the dynamics of the team space and that adaptation. So that's the challenge for me in Forces Command and my team. But the end state is that we understand that adaptation cycle and we support that at the right points in time across the life cycle in Forces Command. Where we want to land as an end state, all members of Forces Command are participating in habitual and sustainable programs and practices to optimise their performance and meet that slogan we all use, ready now and future ready. It actually matters. You need to be investing now so you can fight in the future. I'm going to talk you quickly through ways, means and ends. We have asked our brigades to let us know what you're doing. So this is where your voice comes in. We've done a bit of an environmental scan, if you like, and trying to get an understanding of what are the programs that matter to you guys. Your best place to do your needs analysis. Well, I can jump in and say, it's really good with my psych hat on for you to have this level of education and understanding. You guys know what your stresses are. You know what it's like inside your battalion, in Darwin, in a training cycle. What are the things that you need? We understand that lots of organic activity has already been occurring, and some of it's pretty mature. And we know that you've been reaching out. We want to know about it. We want to know what's working. We want to know what your needs are. So that's our first step, is going through understanding what that targeted analysis of your needs will look like. The next stage is to build an overarching strategy. So while I took you through some of the early foundation work around the documentation that supports HP as an effect, we're now leaning towards and working towards an Army-level HPO strategy. So this will clearly define what Forces Command and the other functional commands in Army, how we will implement HPO for you guys. That is a body of work that's commenced with a rapid acceleration, and we're hoping to get there by the end of the year. Watch this space is where I would put a marker on, keep an eye out for the HPO strategy. What will come with it is an advisory group. So this is a body of experts, not me, but others in the room, who will sit and decide for you on whether the programs that you're interested in putting out in your teams are actually going to give you bang for buck. We want to make sure that the information we're providing you, the activities that you're doing, are building towards the right outcomes. It's also, this advisory group is a place where we can share those lessons, where we can share the success of what's happening in one brigade with the others and work through a way to scale and sustain those effects. In terms of the ends, it is a continuum and is an adaptation that we're working towards, that this builds through the life cycle. We understand, of course, that we come in, we do ab initio training, we get out to our schoolhouses, we eventually get to the brigades, we go through all sorts of cycles in terms of training, we may deploy, we come back, there's recovery, there's resetting, but we continue on. And if my goal is to keep soldiers in Army for a longer time and working to their potential, then we need to make sure that our HP information support, that team working behind the scenes is right across that full continuum. We need to be integrated with all of the other systems inside of Army that are touching our soldiers' capability. So we need to make sure that HP is integrated with the personnel management system, with the health system, with the welfare system, with the chain of command, so that we're all talking the same language and we're all working together. And we need to make sure that anything we do is scalable. So it might, something that you might be doing right down at the section level inside your unit, you might be getting really great results. But is it something that we can scale to the rest of your company or even to the rest of your unit? We need to understand what it takes to sustain the good stuff and how do we scale it across Forces Command. And we want to make sure that we give parity of access to the great tech that's out there. You all saw Curtis's slide with the multi-inputs across his training cycle. It comes from AWatch and various other imports. We want you guys to have access to that kind of stuff. We want you to be able to track your own performance, track your well-being, track how you're working as a team. We're working towards those things, and it does require that integration of the appropriate technology. We want all of the work that we're doing to be underpinned by an evidence base. Those research findings are really important to us, and I'll talk a little bit about our DSTG partnership in a moment. And we want to make sure that the specialist expertise is touching our teams where it needs to. At the moment, we don't have good parity across that, and we want to create opportunities for all soldiers to have equal access. I'm going to talk very quickly about that integration piece where human performance touches the other systems that manage our people in Army. You would be familiar with the three areas here: deployable, ready and not ready, and all of us at some point in our career sit in and outside and across those three areas. You'll see that the big red circle is where we're going to put our HP effects or our foundation practices and principles and programs inside that ready space. So we're talking about prevention, if you like. We're talking about putting those things in so that when our teams are in that operating environment, when they're doing the warfighting they train for, that all the ingredients are there, that they can work together as a team. Your career in Army takes the black dotted line as you move between deployable, not ready, through recovery, rehabilitation, and back into the ready space. So while we're not part of Garrison Health, we're not part of the personnel management system, we're not part of the welfare system, we integrate in and across and with those other systems. So now I just want to show you kind of like the future state and some of the things that we've been doing in these domains, so you get a good picture of where we're heading from an intent purpose in Forces Command. So from the body domain, it's about being combat ready, fitter, healthier, stronger, contributing to Army more of the time. Improving the force, optimising the team, preserving the force. These are the stages we're going to go through. And most of you would recognise that this is how we're getting there. Anyone here had access to or worked out with inside a mobile training gym? Any hands up? Oh, it's a little here, there. Great, good to see, good to see. So Forces Command have provided more than 36 mobile training gyms across 26 Forces Command and 2 Div units. We're using them at Rifle Company Butterworth as well. There's been lots of improvements to them. Those that saw them maybe 10 years ago, you would have walked inside a shipping container and there's just what appears to be just gym equipment lying on the floor. It's now racked and stacked. It's now cutting edge equipment. It's the stuff that you will see in the high-end gyms for elite sports people. We've ruggedized it, is the word, not mine, to make it deployable so that these kits are deployable in the field. And we're doing that every day across Forces Command. From a CPC point of view, more specifically in 1 Brigade, there's been pretty heavy investment in the South Gym and the North Gym. They're big dollar numbers there. Across the command, we've spent $2.5 million on combat physical conditioning equipment over the last couple of years. There is some centralisation of assets in 1 Brigade, so you'll know that you don't necessarily have your own training gym CPC equipment, but the North and South is where the kit is. And some units, 5RR and 1HB, have their own mobile training gyms. And there are opportunities through our procurement to continue to roll out these MTGs. At the moment, there is a focus on the catch-up of making sure that 1 Brigade, 3 Brigade and 7 Brigade have parity, and we've achieved that. You've all got the equal access, the same equipment now, but we're working towards, obviously, the rest of the brigades in Forces Command playing catch-up with that. So there's a picture there at the top. That's what the new racks look like inside the mobile training gyms. From the mind perspective, it's about combat ready, enhancing critical thinking, adaptive problem solvers, contributing to Army more of the time. So that keeping you in the job and loving what you're doing and thriving in your team is that underpinning philosophy here. We're going to invest in some programs and things around self-regulation. It's all strengths-based, which is that performance mindset approach, and it's about having the cognitive readiness, so knowing that you have got the ingredients in you and the training in you to be able to make those quick decisions. The cognitive domain is far less mature than the body domain. There's been some work done across psych and education core, as you'd probably know, sort of building point of need programs. But the idea that we come back to this standardised foundation principle is where we're at right now. There is consideration being given to options around performance coaching in this domain, and there is an Army coaching strategy, not my work, that is being spun up at the same time. So we might see that some of this stuff will be really important as we live in a world of DOMOps, about teaming and reteaming. You often don't deploy with your team on DOMOps, etc. How we prepare people in this domain is really important. Teams is the third domain in the Forces Command approach, where we talk about soldiers who are combat ready, ethical, resilient leaders and teams, and contributing to Army more often. This domain echoes somewhat the mind domain, but it is a bit more mature. And I think this is because the Army HPO plan is founded largely in professional development, and you would know that PME is well established, very mature and operating really well across Forces Command. So it is part of that competitive advantage is understanding, have we got this baseline ethical value stuff right? And I think we are more mature in this space. But there's some good stuff coming. There's some leadership for change pilots coming out. There's some accelerated leadership development pathway work that's coming your way as well. So again, keep an eye out. In Forces Command, our guardrail is combat behaviours. That's where we bring all of our training into, are we aligned with combat behaviours? In the tools space, there's 3 things I wanted to get across to you today, and it's start with the middle one in terms of tech. It's not just about wearables, although they are very handy. It's about the other equipment and the translation of the research that I put in this tech space as well. It's about understanding that human performance is that cycle from training to execution to recovery. And we're doing some work down at CATC, putting together a recovery trial, equipping those soldiers with the appropriate inputs to a recovery stage. It's not just about stretching or floating in a tank. There's a whole lot of inputs that go into that. So once we've trialled that, we see that that recovery concept will roll out across the brigades. In terms of assurance, that is a major piece of our tools framework. It's about putting bumpers on the lanes, which is the catchphrase of one of my team members at Forces Command. We're not here to say that you can't go bowling. We want you to go bowling, and we really want you to get your highest score. We just want you to stay in your lane. So about putting bumpers on the lane is just that assurance that we know you're doing things that will actually lead to human performance improvements, that we're not wasting our time and energy or effort and money on those activities, programs, inputs that perhaps not going to give us the outcomes we want. It's where we have our research partners and our industry engagement with the AIS in particular, that translation and leveraging of what they know and what they can bring to the soldiers of one brigade. And the last piece I wanted to float with you was this idea, and I don't want you to walk out of here thinking, oh, that's what Forces Command are going to do. It's what Forces Command are thinking about. How many in the room are ADF combat fitness leaders, or ADF FFLs as we call them now, fitness leaders? Any fitness leaders in the room? 1 or 2? Great. You all know what the concept is, yeah? And you'd all be hopefully tracking that we now have in Forces Command a ratio of 1 fitness leader to every 25 soldiers. So our PTIs are a scarce and busy workforce, and our FFLs have always supported our PDIs. What we're looking at doing is proposing that while our ADF FFLs work in the physical domain, in the body domain, and they're all core, they're all rank, and they're volunteers that want to participate and support unit training, that we might expand that idea and think about, could we have an all rank, all core soldier who's trained up in the fundamentals of human performance across the domains, and could they be supporting our soldiers and our units to achieve those effects? So it's a volunteer piece, and it's part of that technical structure of expertise that would sit inside the units. The idea that we would provide those people with training, with an assurance framework, with some mentoring, but they would essentially then be inside units doing the needs analysis, working to FORCOMD, but helping you to deliver those effects on the ground. It's a network, if you like, that we don't have at the moment, and it takes, for want of a better word, some of that pressure off our specialists in PT and in psych and in education who are working towards the program development piece. It's an idea. If you've got thoughts about it, love to hear about it in the chat. If you think it's a great idea or you're putting your hand up, pick me, let us know about it. Equally, if you think it's a dumb idea and you've got a better one, absolutely love to hear that too. I wanted to talk you through quickly the research. So you would all know that DSTG is Army's partner in human performance research, and it is a priority area for Army research. There's a whole lot of human performance requirements that Army has articulated to DSTG, and they're working away at that. Some of you might have heard of the Human Performance Research Network, which is one of those mechanisms by which they undertake all of their research. I'm not going to talk you through all of these. You may be familiar with some of these studies. The physical employment standards there. This is the body of work that is most recognisable, because this is the piece of work that gave us the PESA. So this is the body of work that scientifically assessed what are Army's mission essential tasks, how do we validate that down to a set of training principles and assessments so that we know our soldiers are physically ready. We've got some other examples. Performance nutrition is a really good one, where you would all understand that having KFC for breakfast is not good 7 days a week, and that performance nutrition plays a really important part in how well you do your job. And for many years now, DSTG have been working in Scottsdale and providing advice on soldier diet stuff. But more recently, we've started doing trials inside Army messes. So you will start to see improvements in selection, in the information that's provided to you, and in the advice that you're getting around the food that you're eating. That is also translating into our combat ration packs, but in the messes where you might eat day to day, we're starting to see real improvements. You'll see there advanced recovery. I've talked about that one. In the mind domain, there are probably more research studies ongoing with DSTG than in the body domain. And these are about those effects we talked about. So it's about understanding problem solving, decision making, situational awareness, stress coping skills. Bright Fox is a really good example of a collaboration between DSTG and one of our industry partners. This helped us to understand what are the problem-solving strategies used by experienced, if not expert, commanders during mission planning, and how do we translate that into tactical decision aids for soldiers on the ground. It is a body of work that's completed in the research phase and is now translating. I know Major Williams is going to talk about the translation piece a little bit down the track. Some of the other cool stuff, there's research related to incorporating cognitive tasks into physical exercise. Preliminary results suggest that this type of training can increase your endurance on physical tasks and improve cognitive skills like memory. Similar research is also being conducted by the US Marine Corps, and it's helping us to understand whether this type of training should be business as usual in our military. DSTG and the University of Queensland conducting a trial with Second 14 to see whether non-invasive brain stimulation, which involves, it's just a wave of electricity that we pass over your forehead, can improve target detection in really complex scenarios. This is really cutting-edge research. These things take a while to translate, but the benefits you will see in your lifetime in one brigade. In the teams and tools, this is about improving team performance in challenging environments. There's lots of autonomous systems, human-machine teaming concept stuff going on, robotics, autonomous systems, that kind of stuff. Measuring cognitive load is another area of intense study at the moment. And I know that I think 16 Reg and 1 RAR are the samples at the moment. There's lots of work in developing app-based programs to support assessment and the development of cognitive fitness, allowing our soldiers to practice and input on mental skills on a day-to-day basis. I think much of the research is long range, so what our scientific community calls second and third horizon. The focus in Forces Command is to bring that into the first horizon. What is the things that we can translate very quickly for you? Some of that cutting edge technology I've talked about now is a couple of years away, maybe more than a couple. But there are lots of opportunities for us with DSTG and our industry partners to bring the results to you now. Setting up the framework inside Forces Command allows us to have one single portal for that information, for that engagement to occur. pretty exciting time to be in HP and Army. I'll finish off here with, what does HPO mean to you? Now, this is not a writing task, people. It's just something to think about. I want you to walk away thinking, what does this all mean for me? How can I contribute? There's lots of ways to get involved. We want to know your ideas. We want you to get on our SharePoint page and send us a link. We want you to contact us through the DPN or the Cove and give us your ideas. Our units are conducting their targeted needs analysis, but you can get involved, you can have a voice. Anytime you get asked to fill in a survey for Army, just take a moment and think, yeah, now if I had a HP wish list, what would that be? Stick it on your survey response, because people like me get to read that stuff. Where do you go for more information? At the moment, you go to the Combat Behaviours ADEL site. Some of you may be familiar with that. Or you go to our SharePoint site. In the future, you're going to go to a website that's integrated across the 4 domains, that has all of our industry and research in one place, that is not just information about what we're doing, but opportunities for you to participate. So that's where we're working towards. It's been really great to talk to you today. Thank you for the opportunity, and all the best.
So the question's from Lance Corporal Kate Casey from 1 Avon Regiment. Her question is, what sort of time frame have you given to roll out HP initiatives into the Brigade regions?
Thanks, Carmen. Look, some of the stuff we're doing right now, in terms of having the whole system working, that's a couple of years away. The strategy will land by the end of the year, and at the same time as the strategy is being built, we're building the implementation framework, or the action plan, if you like. So we'd like to see that I stand here this time next year and talk to you about what we've been doing. The longer term, having it all standardised, that's going to take some time, because you would know that 1 brigade has different needs than 3 brigade, 7 brigade, 6 brigade, etc. So there's a long game on some of this stuff, but the assurance framework, the one portal, the resources, that's all in a 1 to 2 year framework.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Colonel Costello.